Welcome to Edge Concepts. In this tutorial, I'll be implementing this animation using a frame of motion in Next.js application. So this is my Next.js application. I have a menu icon here or a button. When I click it, I open the sidebar. Then I'll also tilt this background color, which is the home page, to some anti-clockwise direction to some degrees. Then when I click on these elements in the list, I should be able to animate their background. In case you're new to this channel, my name is Aluko. Enough of introduction. Let's move to coding. This is the application without the animation. It's already running in my Visual Studio Code editor. So let me show you how it looks like. If I click on this menu icon, you can see the transition is very sudden. So the elements just jump in and out. So very first, let me take you through the structure. So I have one page. Basically, all the application is under one page like this. Then I have several React components. I have created a components folder, and inside here I have three components. The first one is the home component, which is displaying all this bluish background and its contents. Then I also have a navigation bar, that is the top navigation bar, which is this area here. I have rendered here the navigation bar inside the home component. Then I have the sidebar, which is this section here. Then what I've done is that I have rendered this sidebar and the home component inside my main page, which is index.js, which is my home page. So if I open this, that is what I have done. Remember, the home page is housing the top navigation bar, so they'll all be rendered here. Then I have done some props drilling so that the items will be shown conditionally depending on where the click or the toggle buttons are available. So if you look at my application, the showing and the hiding of the sidebar is done by clicking this menu icon. So all the icons I have here, I have imported them from frame of motion, not frame of motion, but a React icons library. So I have installed that in my project. It's very easy to do that. You simply need to have your terminal, then you type npm install React icons. Like that. I don't need to install it because I already have that. You also need to install frame of motion. If you look at my package.json, I have these dependencies here. I have frame of motion, then I have React icons. So to install frame of motion, you simply need to do npm install frame of motion like that. So I did install that, so I don't need to do it again. I just expect you to follow along this project and get the concepts and see how I was able to achieve this. Then you can implement these animations later in your own project. Then let me take you through the props. Let me start with this home page, which is the main page and also the page that is displaying all the components. Remember, it's only one. What happens is here is that I have the useState hook that I've set to false, and I have the sidebar variable which is false. So I have passed that variable to my home component. If I visit my home component, which is this one here, you can see I have the variable as I have it as a prop here. And then it's working. I mean, I have passed the same prop to my navigation bar, which is this one here, all the two, the variable and the function that is going to toggle the variable. I have passed them all to the navigation bar. Then when I open the navigation bar.js or navbar.js, I have the variable and the function here, sidebar and the sidebar. Then what happens is that I have two icons that are rendered conditionally. Also depending on another condition, which is the margin top. The initial state of the margin top is null. I have done that in the home.js, and then I've passed them to this navigation bar. Then I have them here as props, as you've seen, so that when the margin top is null, when it's null, I'll be rendering this menu icon. When I click the menu icon, it sets the margin top to some value. You can see that here. When I click on the outline menu icon, I set the margin top to 100, which means it's not null. It means that this will be rendered and this will be hidden. So I have done a conditional rendering here in my icons. Then for the case of the sidebar, I have also set the sidebar to false. When I click this button, I set it to false. So when I set it to false, it means that the contents of the sidebar are displayed. Let me just show you that. Let me open the sidebar, which is this one here. For the sidebar, I have the image and the h6 tag, which is this section. And then I have the information displaying the list of these links. So what I've done is importing all the icons from the React Icons library up here, from this statement to this last one. Then I have a list array of objects here. Each object will have a React icon and a name keys, like that. Then I have mapped them to render each one of them here. Then what I've done is that when I toggle this sidebar to true, to true, it will display all the contents of the sidebar. That is what I've done here, conditional rendering here. So if it's true, I'll display the image, the h6 tag, and the map, like that. But when it's false, this is going to be not displayed. It will not be available in the tree. So that is everything for the structure. Then I'll now start performing the animations. I'd like to start with the home page. Let me just close this, like that. And this is the home page. To be able to perform the animation, for this case I'll be using gestures, and for the gestures I only need the animate state of the component. When I mount, or when the component is available in the tree, the gestures happen to the components. So the gesture that I'm talking about here is the click gesture. So when I click on a button, something should happen to the component I'm pointing the animate prop to. So I have to import this motion, which is the main component, the basic component for animation in Framer Motion. So I'm importing motion from Framer Motion, like that. And the side that I want to animate is the side that is housing all the blue background, this one here. And the class that is doing that in my project is this container class. So I have to prefix motion here, like that. Then for the gestures animation, you don't need to, describe all the states of the animation. You only need to describe the animate state. You don't need to describe the initial and the exit states. So for my animate, I'm going to pass the object here, which is going to describe what is going to happen. First thing that I want to animate is this space here, margin top. Then I'll also want to animate, I think that is pretty much everything I'll need to do. But when you looked at the introduction, there was that tilting of the page, somehow rotating to anti-clockwise to some angle. So I'll also do that. So the first thing that I'll need to do is to work on the margin top. So this margin top is going to depend on the state, which is this sidebar. When the state is active, then I'll set my margin top to some value. So what I'm going to do is to bring in the sidebar here, and I'll do conditional rendering. So when this sidebar is true, I want to set my margin top to around 250 or 200 and something. When you look at my home.js, I have some margin top and set margin top states here. At first the state is null, the variable is null, no value. But when I activate the set, the sidebar, or set it to true, I also want to set this margin top to some value. I need to set it to some value. In fact, when you click on this menu icon in this navbar.js, this section, where is it? This is the menu icon. When you click on it, I'm setting my margin top to 100 pixel. So instead of hard coding the value, I'm just going to use this value here. So when I click this menu icon, I'll be setting the margin top to 100 pixel, and that margin top is available in my home page. That is where the variable is originating from, this here. So I'll be setting it to 100 pixel. So instead of hard coding here 100 pixel, I can just write margin top like that. But when my sidebar is false, I will want to set my margin top back to 0, like that. So let me just save that and test out. Yeah, you can see there is that transition or animation happening. The next thing I'll want to do is to work on the transformation of my component, and I'll perform a skew transformation. So transform, I want to transform my element like that, and this is also going to depend on the sidebar. When it's active, I want to set a skew of -5 degrees. That is the skew Y. Like that. But when the sidebar is false, I'm going to set everything to 0. So let me save this and see the changes. Yeah. And the animations seem to be happening very fast. So the next thing I'm going to do is to set the time that this animation is going to take. So I need to bring in the transition. Then what I want for my transition is the duration. So I'm going to set the duration to 0.5 seconds, like that. Save the changes. There we have our animation slowed down. That is pretty much everything for the home page. So I'll now start working on the sidebar. Let me close this and open the sidebar.js. There we have it. So the first section that I'll want to animate is this white space here, so that there is that transition, smooth transition in hiding and showing the elements. So that white space is being housed by this sidebar class or element. So first I have to import frame of motion. Not really frame of motion, but motion component from frame of motion, like that. Then I'll prefix motion here. So I'll be working with the width of the component. So remember I said that if you're performing the gestures animation, you only need to work on the animate state of the element. Frame of motion will take care of the initial and the exit states of the animation. So there I pass my object, then I'm working on the width. This width is going to depend on the sidebar variable, just like the home section. So when my sidebar is true, I want to set my width to 250 pixels. But when my sidebar is false, I want to set the width to 0. The other thing I need to do to this is the padding of this sidebar. So when the sidebar is active or true, I want to set the padding to 40 pixels all around. But when it's false, I'll set it back to 0. Then the other thing is the margin. I want to set the margin to, I'll set the margin to, do I even need the margin? I don't need the margin for this particular case. Let's just test out and see what is happening. There seems to be an error. Yeah, spelling error. Supposed to be sidebar. Sidebar, like that. Save the changes, head back to application. There you see smooth transition. But our animation seems to be happening faster than the home section, so we are going to introduce the duration. So first you need a transition, then I'll pass a duration aspect. Sorry. I'll set this to 0.5. Save the changes, then head back to the application. There we have our animation taking place smoothly and as expected. So we are almost done with this implementation. So the next thing I'm going to do is to work on this list having different background colors, and also these colors being animated when I click on any given element of the list. So the list is being rendered here using the map method. So I have mapped through the array of the list, which is this one here, and I'll be rendering the objects here, or I'll be rendering the keys of the objects here, that is the item.name and the item.icon, so that I'll be able to render the React icons. So what I'm going to do is to prefix motion. Like that. Then I'll work on animate prop. So what I want to do is to make sure that my components will have some background color when they are shown. At first, when it's at the introduction, you saw that when I opened this, the home element had a background color, some bluish background color by default. So to be able to do that, I need to have some state here. I already imported the use state hook. So what I'm going to do is to create some variable here. I'm going to call it the animation index. Then I'm going to set the animation index. At first, I'm going to set it to 0. The reason why I'm going to set it to 0, when you look at my home component, which is not home component but this home element icon there and the text in the list, it is in index 1. Yeah, that is the index of the object, index 1. So I'm going to set my animation index by default to 0, so that I'll be able to have this background color set to blue and the color set to white. So what I'm going to do is to perform or do the code inside this object that is being displayed. So I already have my animate state there object. So let me start with the background color. So what I want to do is to check if the index of the element being shown here is the same as the animate index, this one. If it's the same as 0, then I should be able to have a certain background color on that element or that object. So we are going to check that by saying that if the index, of course this index that I've passed here as the argument, or if this is the same as animate index, then I'll do something to the background color. I'll set the background color to this RGB code that I pre-tested. It should be a string RGB. It's 5997, then 128, like that. But if it's not the same as this animate index, if the index is not the same as this, then I'll set it to white. It should also be a string, like that. So let's save that. There you have it. Sorry about that. The next thing I like to do is to work on changing the unmet index. In fact, I did it here when I pre-tested the application. Let me just clear so that it doesn't confuse you. Like that. Yeah. So the next thing I like to do is to work on the color. I've done the background color, so what I'm going to do is just copy this and paste it there. Then change this to color. And the color is going to be vice versa, so I'll copy that and paste it there. Like that. Save that. Yeah, we have the colors white. Then the next thing is the duration. So I need to bring in the transition. And I'll set the duration to 0.5 seconds. So the next thing I'm going to work on is changing the index, so that when I click on this, I'm going to change the animate index to the index of this, so that the background color comes to this section or this element. Then that happens to all other elements. So let's do that. On my element or object, which is this one here, I want to introduce a click event. So on click, I'll have an anonymous function here that will return the set state, or set this state to set animation index to the index of the element being clicked. Yeah, like that. Let me save that. Head back to the browser. There we have it. Close our sidebar, open the sidebar, close it, open, click the element. You see the background color and the colors are changing and are being animated smoothly. So that is everything you need to achieve this particular animation. In the course of next week, I'm planning to start doing the frame of motion series. I've discovered that most of my viewers don't have the basic, understanding of frame of motion. So that when I'll be doing the subsequent videos on frame of motion, you should all be having the basics of a frame of motion animation library. So I'll cover all the basics, almost, let me say 90% of what you need to get you started working with the animation in React.js using a frame of motion. Thank you so much for your time. If you are new to this channel and you haven't subscribed, please do that, subscribe, share the video, like it, and comment. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I'll leave the link to this particular tutorial. I'll leave the GitHub link in the description of the video. Thank you so much for your time. See you next time.